Actually, scientists working in India, they are second to none. They are highly trained, motivated. If proper funding and support is provided, they can definitely achieve it. But one problem I notice is that no scientist in India is focusing exclusively on cultural meat. They are making it one of the many projects they are handling. And I feel that approach will not be sustainable. If you have five projects and out of that one is cultured meat, keeping in mind the challenges is cultured meat, that will not be sustainable.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Smart Protein Pod by GFIdeas India, a podcast designed to educate and guide entrepreneurs, students, researchers, and early career professionals in the smart protein sector. We do this by inviting pioneers and trailblazers in science, business, government, and civil society who've shown exceptional vision for the future of our food system. I'm Amrutha Girivasan, Scientific Engagement Coordinator at the Good Food Institute India, and your host for this episode. For those new here, GFIdeas India is a community started by GFI India for innovators creating or expanding access to smart protein solutions and working to advance the ecosystem in India. Working alongside scientists, businesses, and policymakers, GFI India's team focuses on making alternative proteins delicious, affordable, and accessible. To reimagine meat, we need more than technology. We need scientists willing to challenge convention and champion a better way. Our guest for today has done exactly that. He's advocated for cultivated meat in various public forums and currently serves as the director of an ICAR institute, the National Research Center on Mithun in Nagaland. Dr. Girish Patil, welcome to the Smart Protein Pod and thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you, Amrutha.
Let's start at the very beginning. Dr. Girish, you started your career with a background in veterinary sciences. Could you take us through how your career evolved over the years, bringing you to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I'm basically a veterinarian. I completed my Bachelor of Veterinary Science from University of Agriculture Sciences, Dharwad, Veterinary College, Bidar. Subsequently, I did my PG and PhD from Indian Veterinary Research Institute, located in Bareilly, Uttar Pradesh, in the discipline of livestock products technology. After that, briefly, I worked as assistant professor in GB Pant University of Agriculture Sciences, Pantnagar, Uttarakhand. And later, I joined as a scientist in Indian Council of Agriculture Research in the year 2005. As a scientist, I worked at ICAR National Meat Research Institute in Hyderabad and ICAR National Research Center on Pig, located in Guwahati. In 2022, I joined as director of ICAR National Research Center on Mithun, which is located in the beautiful state of Nagaland.
It's great to hear what a fulfilling journey you've had so far, and that too all over India, and also to hear everything that brought you here today. So, as I mentioned before, you've consistently advocated for cultivated meat and supported GFI India's mission since 2019. So, we're curious to know, how did your connection with GFI India begin, and what drew you to cultivated meat and its potential in India?
I'm basically a meat scientist. I work on all aspects of meat. The concept of cultured meat attracted me in around 2016-17, and I was preparing a project and I was looking for some partners, because as cultured meat has many different aspects, and no single group can do it. It has to be done in a collaborative way. That in that period, the first edition of Future of Protein Summit was held in CSCR, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, Hyderabad, in the year 2018. Uh, that venue was also very near to my institution, and I happened to participate there. And there, I got an insight into cultured meat, different aspects of cultured meat, and also I came in contact with different CCMB scientists like Dr. A.K. Mishra, Dr. Josna Dhawan, Dr. Madhusudan Rao, and Dr. Radha. And I think my association with GFI started with the first edition of Future of Protein Summit. Subsequently, I attended other protein summits also, sometimes as a panelist also. And that is how I am associated after that.
As always, we're so grateful that you've voiced your support for the advancement of smart protein science. And we also spotted a few of our valued stakeholder names in the list of names that you mentioned from CCMB. So, speaking of this, let's rewind to your days as a scientist. Just a note for our audience, we're starting with the assumption that our audience is already familiar with cultivated meat, plant based meat, and related technologies. And for those who'd like to explore further, we've linked a few resources in the description that explain the science behind these technologies as well. Dr. Girish, back when you were a professor at NRC Meet in Hyderabad, you worked on a path-breaking Department of Biotechnology funded project with the Center for Chemical and Molecular Biology, or CCMB, and that focused on the extraction of mutton cell lines. So at the time, like you mentioned, the concept of cultivated meat was still very new, and you were into this way back in 2016-17 when the concept was new in India as well. And the regulatory pathways hadn't been explored, and there were very few companies working on cultivated meat internationally. But the Indian government made a bold move to fund this emerging technology in a large public grant. So, as the recipient of this grant, having dedicated a lot of time and effort to this project, we would love to hear more about your experience working on the project.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, when I think of the first project, I really become emotional because that was the first project in India on the cultured meat, and it was a collaborative project between CCMB Hyderabad and ICR National Research Center on Meat, and now it is known as National Meat Research Institute. We started from the scratch because just there were no other projects and no data how to do, and we tried to explore the different options by going through the literature, and we explored all the possible options. The first challenge was to extract the primary myoblast cells from the young lambs, and for that, collecting the tissue from the young lambs was a challenge. For that, and also we have to take the institutional animal ethics clearance. We thought that we'll collect from the old animals, but that is not suggestible. And how to collect it from the young lambs, because young lambs are generally they are not slaughtered and they are not permitted to be slaughtered less than 1 year. So as per the in discussion with the IAEC and as per their suggestion, what we did is we brought from the farm the young lambs along with the mother, and we kept it in our farm. And with the help of a veterinarian, we did a small surgery on the major muscles of the hind leg. And after collection of the tissue, we used it for isolation of the myoblast. And lamb, it was properly sutured and treated and kept along with the mother. It is till it is completely treated, and then it was rehabilitated back to the farm, and that protocol was approved by EAC, and that is how we maintained multiple times. We collected, and at all these stages we have to maintain the sterility. We could isolate the cells from this young lamb, and we could go up to 26 doublings. We also express the sheep serum growth factors, which are essential for developing the serum free media. That was done by our CCMB partners. And then we also tried to immortalize the cells, and further we did establish a facility for upscaling. That is, we procured and established the bioreactors in the CCMB laboratory, and these are all the highlights of the activities we did in our project.
That sounds very, very interesting. And I know that I can understand the feeling that you got emotional when you think about it, because it really, really sounds like a groundbreaking project at such an early time when cultivated meat was not as much heard of in India. And so, staying on course, I just have one more question about the project. As you mentioned, every researcher faces setbacks and challenges, and these were something that you overcame through continuous research and continuous studies. And since you've already mentioned these multiple small stories and challenges that you faced, I would really like to know if there are any interesting anecdotes or core memories that you formed from that project. Do share those with us.
Yeah, that project, I know, full of challenges, I know, and full of memories. The time given by the funding agency, Department of Biotechnology, is 18 months. You know, now that time you accepted because 18 months is too short for covering all the aspects and covering all the challenges. But however, after 18 months, they extended it by a few months. Now we started the project in March 2019. We started the base work of the procuring equipment and everything that went on up to December, January. And then came a COVID outbreak. In the year 2019, December, the COVID outbreak started. And by March 2020, there was a complete lockdown. Everything was to be closed, and it was really a huge hurdle. I remember one day in Jan 2020, one of my project staff, she was mainly involved in the project. She came crying, and I asked what happened. She told she tested positive for COVID in the mass testing done in our institute. And that time, if somebody tests for positive for COVID, whole area has to be sanitized, and then we have to all the people who are in touch. They also have to go for quarantine. So that was a challenge, and unfortunately, it continued in 2021. Also, second wave also came. In spite of all these challenges, we did our best, and whatever the processes we have standardized, we could share it with a startup called the Neat Meat by throwing. And now that Neat Meat is incubated in CCMB Hyderabad, and they are taking it forward.
That's wonderful to hear, and it sounds like a crazy journey, and it sounds like an absolute roller coaster. But I'm really glad that all's well that ends well, and that everything had a good result in the end, and that the research is not just stopping but is continuing with Neat Meat. So, on that note, for the curious scientific minds that have tuned into our podcast right now, what are two tips and tricks that you would give to a young scientist that's tackling these kinds of technical challenges in developing cell lines for cultivated meat?
Thank you. Actually, first thing I wish to tell the young researchers is to be ready to dedicate yourself for 10 to 15 years into it. If you do not want to dedicate 10 to 15 years, please do not enter into this field because it is full of challenges. Okay. And coming to specifically to your question of cell lines, the basic prerequisite for cultured meat production is having good quality cell lines. Recently, one of the researchers from a reputed institutions called me and he asked that we are not getting good primary cell lines, what to do. I asked what is the source. He told the tissue collected from the slaughterhouses or from the old animals. So you should not collect the tissues for primary cell extraction from the old animals because they will reach the senescence very early. Okay. What is the other option? Other options is to go for young animals. Here, what I have explained previously. But that is also not sufficient because even that young animal cells also can go up to more than 20, maybe 25 or 30 doublings, not beyond that. And then what is the last option is you have to go for immortalization of the cells. For the immortalization, there are two options are there. One is going for genetic modification of introducing or activating the gene for telomerase reverse transcriptase, what we call it as STUR, which helps cells maintain their telomers, which will prevent the cellular senescence, or you will go for induced pluripotency. Okay, so both of these methods are genetic modifications. If you are going with the genetically modified cells, it will be very difficult to get the regulatory clearance because you are producing something for consumption. So what is the best option? I feel is there is another option called spontaneous immortalization. It is a rare and chance phenomenon. If you can achieve the spontaneous immortalization and ensure that they are not cancer cells, if you can get those cells, that will be ideal for cultured meat production, or you have to go for embryonic stem cells. I discourage going for any genetic modification. I encourage scientists to go for either spontaneous immortalization or go or try with the embryonic stem cells so that you can achieve something which can be consumed.
Thank you, Dr. Girish, for those tips and tricks for the upcoming scientists of our generation. We would also really like to know if there are things that you think should not be done by scientists, and if there's anything that people should move their focus away from in terms of scientific research.
Yeah, I think that is very important because what is not to be done, don'ts are very, very important. Two things I want to suggest. As a scientist, if you want to go for cultured meat production, don't try to focus on all aspects of it. I have seen the proposals wherein, even we also did the same mistake. We wanted to do the develop the cell lines, we want to do the serum free media, we want to develop the scaffolds, we wanted to go for upscaling all together at a time is not possible because challenges are immense. If you are initiating research in it, take one aspect of it. Simply cell line development. Go ahead, if that is your area of expertise, go ahead, completely standardize it, take 2 to 3 years. Once that is done, and then shift it to other aspects of a serum free media or going for the scaffolds and other things. And the second don't is, if something is already available in the market and available commercially, don't go for developing it again with the assumption of bringing down the cost. If something is commercially available, some serum free media is available, buy it and use it. If cell lines are available, buy it. There are now some contract research organizations have come who are ready to develop the cell lines for you. Avail them. Some companies have developed serum free media. Use them. Then you again, if you go start doing something which is already been done, will be wasting your time. What is already available commercially, buy it, use it, standardize the process, and then later we will see how to bring down the cost. At every step, bringing down the cost is a continuous process. So these are the two don'ts I wish to suggest to the researchers.
Definitely. I think you emphasized how smart work and hard work go hand in hand, and diving deep is truly the answer to making advancements in a particular field, and that's going to lead to the collaborations that you mentioned, right? So, if one person specifically focuses on one area, he can contribute better to the overall collaborative landscape. So, thank you for that, Dr. Girish. I think this is super helpful advice for all researchers out there. And having done active lab research myself, I know that when something goes wrong in the lab, it's always back to square one and reworking your entire plan and going forward. So, that grit and that determination is absolutely essential to be successful in the lab. So, at this point, I would like to pivot the conversation to understand your outlook on the Indian research landscape and our country's strengths specifically. But before that, we know that your institute, NRC Mithun, focuses exclusively on studying Mithun, which is also the state animal of Nagaland. For our audience, Mithun is a large bovine animal primarily reared for meat and also plays a significant role in the socio-economic and cultural life of tribal communities. So, Dr. Girish, do you see Mithun being a candidate for cultivated meat research, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, Mithuns are the majestic animals of the Northeast India. Our country has about 3.86 lakh Mithuns, which constitute 98% of the Mithun population of the world. So most of the Mithun in the world are present in India, and 90% of these Mithun are in India are present in Arunachal Pradesh. Mithun are the state animal of both Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland, two states. Mithun products are high animal welfare products, wherein the Mithuns are reared in the community forest. Periodically, they are provided the salt. Apart from that, there are no other interventions are done, and they are grazed in the community forest. But due to deforestation and conflicts with the agriculture, the population of Mithun is dwindling. So Mithun meat is highly preferred product, and it can definitely be a candidate. But once the process is standardized and the cost becomes competitive, definitely that cultured meat technology can be horizontally expanded to the Mithun meat production. But at this stage, the more important is to go for chicken or mutton, which is more preferred, and it is across the country. Those meats are consumed.
Thank you, Dr. Girish, for that insight. I think although we have a long way to go, it's good to start somewhere. And like you said, we have chicken and mutton to start with. And then we can make considerations with keeping in mind the sensitivities of tribal communities and their livelihoods on other endangered species and, dwindling species like Mithun, perhaps. So, from a general perspective, I would like to know, what do you think are some overlooked strengths or unique capabilities within India's public research ecosystem that could be better tapped to advance cultivated meat R&D?
Yeah, sure. Actually, scientists working in India, they are second to none. They are highly trained, motivated. If proper funding and support is provided, they can definitely achieve it. But we need to understand that the challenges in the cultured meat are many. So, first we need to have cells, then serum-free media, then we have to go for scaffolds, and then we have to go for upscaling. We have to maintain the sterility and achieving the required sensory attributes. Now, what is happening is scientists and teams are working in isolation in India at present. Different institutions are working. We need to create a consortium of institutions with tasks assigned to different institutions as per their strength. Some institutions are good in cell culture, assign them to develop the cell lines. Some are good in scaffold development, you can assign them. Some are good in media, they can go for serum free media. You have to identify like that. And some are having a huge laboratories for upscaling activities. If our funding agencies can create the consortia based on the requirements and the strength of different institutions and give them that specific task, I'm sure that they can we can make a very good progress over next 5 to 10 years, which will be significant as compared to whatever we have now.
That's a really interesting answer. I think truly the answer to, all challenges is collaboration and collaborative work, and sharing both our wins and challenges. And these kinds of perspectives that you provide are very important for sector builders like GFI India to better understand where and what we can focus on in the coming years. So, Dr. Girish, now that the sector is more mature in India, and since you are speaking of funding, in light of new and supportive policies coming in from the government, like the Bio E3 policy and smart protein exclusive funding calls, what are some specific ways in which India's regulators and scientific bodies can better support cultivated meat R&D and eventually market entry?
Yeah, I need to mention that government of India is open for any innovation, as you have seen, and they're open-minded. And as you mentioned, the Bio E3 policy and the exclusive smart protein funding from the DBT, they indicate this open-mindedness. But one problem I notice is that no scientist in India is focusing exclusively on cultured meat. They are making it one of the many projects they are handling. And I feel that approach will not be sustainable. If you have 5 projects and out of that one is cultured meat, keeping in mind the challenges is cultured meat, that will not be sustainable. I'm yet to find a scientist who is focusing only on the cultured meat and ready to give his life for it. If somebody gives his full time for 10 years, definitely we can make a breakthrough. Till that happens, no amount of funding will help actually. So funding is available. Government agencies are there. If you submit the proposal, but some dedicated scientists need to come up. On the other hand, we have many startups coming up. They are also dedicating themselves to do it. But how long they can sustain? The issue is the funding requirement, equipment requirement, manpower requirement is very high. A small funding given by an agency for 2 to 3 years will not be of any help. Keeping in mind that cultured meat production, marketing, and returns are far away dream. As of now, they cannot think of any returns. Under these circumstances, startups cannot thrive for a long time with the short-term funding given by some of the funding agents, and retaining the staff is also a challenge. So, in my opinion, at this stage, it can be taken up on priority by the public R&D organization and provide funding to those scientists who are having only cultured meat, working on cultured meat and nothing else, and develop the consortiums. So now, if we can do it, then these funding calls will be of use.
And I completely resonate with the fact that, you mentioned the focus should be absolutely exclusively on cultivated meat. And since GFI's work involves talent building, we believe that, there is a small skill gap in bridging that industry need completely, and also bridging that need in academia for researchers and upcoming talent that are working exclusively on a niche area like cultivated meat. And as you know, one of GFI India's priorities is bringing in more talent into the smart protein sector. So I'd like to ask you our next question, which comes straight from the GFIdeas India network. We asked our community members what they would like to ask you, and this question topped the list. Um, From your perspective, are there any specific programs or initiatives you'd like to see launched to better support the next generation of scientists and researchers in this field?
Actually, as of now, I don't think many of the students are aware of this concept because not many labs are working, not many institutions are working in this area. If more and more labs are funded and more labs start working, automatically students will get into this area. So I feel that there is a need to establish center of excellence centers in cell culturing and providing the fellowship for the students, which may encourage the students. I think which you are already doing it. Another important challenge which I need to flag here is the secrecy maintained by the scientists and the startups. People are working, some cell lines and serum free media, scaffolds, and other things. Generally, they do not share the unpublished data and they do not share the intricacies involved because they feel that there is some monetary benefits and they want to maintain their leads over the other labs. And because of the secrecy, whenever any startup or scientist or student is joining, again he has to start from the scratch. Hence, I suggest to GFI to set up one training lab to provide hands-on training on whatever is already known. Because again, whatever is already known, people should not again reinvent the wheel. So if you can establish some training labs who can tell the people, who can provide hands-on training on cell culture, using the scaffolds or using the serum-free media and bioreactor and other things, it will help the students also and startups also to learn, and then they can take it forward from what is already known instead of again reinventing the wheel. Experienced by me, everybody, all researchers are starting from the scratch. There are no training centers who can highlight what is already known. I think this gap maybe can be addressed by the GFI.
Okay, noted, Dr. Girish. And I think we are currently working on a skills mapping study where we aim to do exactly that. And we want to understand how better we can integrate training curricula into various academic and vocational training institutes so that students have these hands on skills that they can then apply to their jobs in the smart protein workforce. So, you brought us directly into what we wanted to talk about next. So, speaking of building the sector, we can all agree that the regulatory pathways play a pivotal role in how fast a sector can progress. So, you were also part of panels or committees of different regulatory agencies like the FSSAI, the Bureau of Indian Standards or BIS, and APIDA, which is the Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority. So, how do you see the regulatory framework towards cultivated meat in India evolve?
Indian regulatory system also very much supportive of any innovative food products, and that is why Indian food processing industry is thriving and booming in the recent years. Any food product to be marketed need to be cleared by the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which is the apex institution to manage the food safety in India. Under FSSAI, there is a category of the novel foods. If anyone develop the cultured meat, they can submit their application under this novel foods. What are novel foods? Novel foods are those which may not have the history of consumption by the humans till date, are the food that is obtained by using the technology and the innovative engineering processes, something which has been developed. So they are considered as the novel foods. And once we have some product, all the guidelines of novel foods category has to be followed. And you have to produce the documentation regarding the safety aspect to FSSAI. FSSAI will consider in terms of the chemical and microbiological safety and the nutritional quality of the product. After that, FSSAI will decide whether it can be marketed or not. At present, as per the available guidelines, entrepreneurs or startups can submit the application through the novel foods of FSSAI. That is where our regulatory framework stands.
Thank you, Dr. Girish. I think it's essential to hear from scientists such as yourself who have been at the intersection of scientific research and policy. So, in this context, what do you think are the perspectives of different stakeholders towards cultivated meat?
Yeah, thank you, Amrita. I think having interested in this area for a long time, I got an opportunity to discuss this issue to elicit the opinion of different stakeholders. And I'm sure that you people are also interacting with the different stakeholders. So opinions are diverse and sometimes they're extreme. Some do welcome this alternate thought, whereas some other people they are averse to it. They feel it is unnatural. You know, and while many within the meat sector feel it is completely unnatural and impractical to produce tons of meat through cell culturing. Always they ask, India produces 7 million tons of meat. Can you produce that in the culturing conditions? And if you are working in this area, two common questions which you can expect, whichever the platform you go are. One is, when will the cultured meat products be available? You know? And the second question is, what will be the cost of cultured meat? If you are working, you should be ready to answer these questions. And regarding when it will be available, let me tell you that the consumers and the investors are losing patience, because the first time the cultured meat was demonstrated in 2015 and they're waiting, but some concrete progress has to be made, and the researchers and the startup need to show some milestone achievements to maintain the interest among the funding agencies and the stakeholders. And regarding the cost of the cultured meat, as you know, Indian market is price sensitive. It will always be compared with the traditional meat. This issue we have to keep it in mind while developing our experiments. So cost is the prime factor, and Mark post when he produced, he told $250,000, and that is what keeps in everybody's mind. So these two questions we need to answer it. And next is policymakers. Policymakers, although they're open and supportive of any innovation done by the researchers, but they're also worried about its impact on the farmers. As you all know, India is an agrarian country, and the major chunk of the population, rather 70% of them, depend on agriculture, and agriculture and animal husbandry go hand in hand. If the cultured meat is produced completely in this way, what will happen to the livelihood of the farmers? That is what bothers the policymakers and also the meat industry people, and also, of course, farmer leaders. Sometimes I do brief them that the cultured meat is important for the nutritional security of the country. The population of the country is growing, per capita income is rising. We are thinking of developed country by 2047. When the per capita incomes globally, it has been witnessed with the increasing population and with increasing per capita income, demand for the meat and meat products will rise. Okay. In order to meet the demand for this meat, cultured meat can be a support. And this cultured meat can boost the meat production in the country and contribute immensely for the nutritional security. Support for startups has clearly boosted this sector. The startup environment created by the government, funding call under the DBT for smart porting is testimony to the support by the policymakers. But we need to allay their fears regarding its impact on the farmers. So that is what I have noticed. Different perspectives of stakeholders on culture meat.
Well said, Dr. Girish. This has definitely given us some food for thought, and at this moment, we are more grateful than ever for champions like you who actually voice out what GFI India's mission is, and talks about cultivated meat in the context of scientific advancements and what impacts it will have for the future. So. We also continue to do this from our side through various analyses, and by getting more information from scientists and researchers and startups that are working in the space, as well as from people such as you. And since we've now covered various aspects of cultivated meat, including research, talent building, regulations, as well as how it can contribute to the country's nutrition security, I want to ask you this. As you took us through your career and your insights on various aspects of the smart protein sector, this one question was on my mind. If you could share one important memory or piece of advice that you received over the years that made you the person you are today, and hand this down to the younger generation, what would it be?
Yeah, that's very interesting question, and I will suggestion towards the cultured meat only. I will keep it. And what I wish to suggest is be open-minded. One of my co-principal investigator, Dr. C. Ramakrishna, principal scientist working at the ICAR National Meat Research Institute, he told because serum is a major component of the media. If you want to go for bioreactor and upscaling, then you require a lot of media and a lot of serum. Procuring this serum is very costly. So what we did, as per his suggestion, was we collected the blood from the experimental laboratory of our institution. We separated the serum, we filter sterilized it, we made the in-house serum and we used it. That has brought down the cost of the cultured meat production. Similarly, he also told why we require a carbon dioxide incubator for cell culturing. Let us go without a carbon dioxide incubator and let us put it in the normal incubator, like that. So these two things, you producing the in-house serum, it has brought down the cost, and culturing without the carbon dioxide incubator, like that. Don't go by the literature. When you are working, you keep your mind open and be ready to do new experimentation, so that will help to bring down the cost, and also it will enhance the speed of your achievements.
Absolutely. I think true science and scientific advancements are made only by people who question the norm and stray away from it and think outside the box. So that is very sound advice, Dr. Girish. So now for our last question of the day, which we ask all our guests, and feel free to be as ambitious and candid as possible when you answer this. If you were to read a front page headline about smart protein in India in 2035, what would you hope for it to be?
Yeah, my hope is very basic. See, in 2015, the headline was Mark Post. Okay, in 2025, regulatory clearance in US and maybe Singapore. By 2035, what I wish to see is availability of large scale mammalian cell lines, you know, and also low cost serum free media. These are the two things. At least if you can achieve in next 10 years, good quality cell lines which can multiply and which are health friendly, and also if you can produce the low cost serum free media, if you can achieve those basic things, then if it becomes the heading, and I think that will be a giant leap towards the cultured meat production.
Absolutely. And I think at the rate things are going and with support from people such as you, I think that is definitely a goal that we can reach hopefully in, the next 5 to 7 years, if not the next 10 years. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be a giant leap for India's scientific landscape. So on that positive note, we will wrap up today's Smart Protein Pod episode. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Girish, and for sharing your brilliant insights as a champion of the Indian smart protein sector.
Thanks, Amrutha, for this opportunity, and it was really interesting talking with you. And I really appreciate the efforts of the Good Food Institute in the progress, whatever the contribution you have made for the progress of the alternative protein. I have seen since last 10 years. I really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Girish. That truly means a lot. And to our listeners, whether you're already working in the smart protein sector or just starting to explore, I believe this conversation gave you valuable takeaways and tremendous motivation. So, to collectively spearhead the sector, we need inputs from like minded community members who share our passion to advance the mission for smart protein. If you haven't already, you can join the GFIdeas India community, a space for individuals to connect, collaborate, and discover extraordinary opportunities that can help advance our smart protein goals. You can find guidelines to join the community in the description box. If you find this episode useful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a Smart Protein Pod episode. And if something resonates with you, drop us a comment or write to us at india@gfi.org. We'd love to hear from you. If you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to follow and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Until next time, bye everyone.